Alright fellas, here we are back at Pokemon Masters, and here we are to look at New Year's Clair and Drampa. They obviously released today. Again, I am late. If you watched the Wallace overview, you know that I'm very late to this. But anyway, yeah, so we're going to be looking at her right now. I'm not going to be going for her at all. If I do try and pick up this character, it will not be now. It would mostly be on a select scout, but even then, I don't think I would pick her up just because I'm not all that interested in her capabilities. That's my personal opinion. This is an overview. It's meant to give you a good example of what Clair, how good Clair is, which I'd say she's definitely solid for sure. I'm not gonna say she's like a meta relevant support or anything, but she is definitely good, and she's got some good niches. But let's go ahead and look at her stuff. So she is a support sync pair as stated with a tech EX roll. A very valuable EX roll, of course. Obviously, you should always give your tech and striker EX rolls to your supports. Definitely the best, most optimal option. That is a joke. Seasonal Scout, obviously, she lasts until January 19th, meaning you got 2.5 weeks to pull her. And then looking at her stats, she has 300 special defense, 288 defense, 676 HP. I guess 200 special attack, sure. And then 268 speed. Not like mind-blowing stats for support, but definitely not bad, of course. Solid defenses. I think the HP's a little on the lower side, kinda, but it's mostly fine otherwise. Speed a little bit lower too, but not detrimental. Anyway, looking at her moves, she has Twister and Dragon Breath, which is pretty much just a way to do some consistent flinching here, as well as the paralysis. So you get yourself that random flinch chance as well as the paralysis ability, so that's not bad, for sure. X defense all, being able to raise allies' defense, pretty basic. And then trainer move, You're Good, raises all ally attack and special attack by 2 and crit by 3. So this pretty much makes her like a good startup enabler, I guess you could say, where you can max crit in an instant and then raise an ally's offensive stat by +2. You'll obviously want the ally to be able to buff their attack or special attack by another +2/+4. But of course, she is able to get them that good startup, so you can make sure that they're ready to go and start attacking near as quick as possible. So I mean, definitely a good trainer move for sure. Being able to max crit in a single turn is obviously always super useful, and being able to buff attack and special attack by, even a small amount is useful as well, because it can just help a character top off what they may already have available to them. Anyway, looking at the passive skills, she's got trainer move, team free moves next 9, applying free moves next to all allies when the trainer uses a move. Obviously, you've got 3 chances to activate this without NPR, so 3 free moves next for all allies is obviously good in its own right, especially because Clair's base speed situation is not like the greatest ever. So being able to actually apply this is definitely very good in mostly shorter battles, which there are good sides to this character in shorter battles, but there are a lot more good sides, in my opinion, to her in longer battles, which she seems to not be absolutely amazing for. Anyway, I'll go into that a bit later. She's got initial Synchro Healing 2, restoring HP of all allied sync pairs by approximately 40% after using the user's sync move first each battle. This is definitely really, really good in the stadium where you have the 50% ally HP reduction parameter activated, so if you need to have that bulk, you can get it by your first sync move, and of course that is made even better whenever you are using a sync ramping setup where you'll be having a lot of sync countdown, such as obviously running Ray or someone with a lot of sync countdown, like any sprint character, and then you have like Lear if you want to run Signature Lisa, but that would be double support, which is iffy, but you know what I mean, right? Either way, so she can work like that. Team take, and then her final passive here is team take hit, ignore weather, terrain, zone, power up. That's a stupid name. Ignores the power up effects of weather conditions, terrains, and zones when an ally is hit by an attack move, sync move, or max move. So basically, this takes enemies being buffed by sun, rock zone, rain, electric terrain, psychic terrain, fire, whatever it may be, and it mitigates the boosted damage that they would have from their from their powered up moves. This does, I obviously I have not used Clair, and I have not researched into Clair today since she is actually released, but I'm quite confident this does not count for passive skills that are boosted by terrain. So for example, if we were to go and look at Water Week, I think, yeah, Water Week Malva sets Sun in entry, which means that she's getting a boosted overheat, her allies are getting boosted flamethrowers, heat wave, all that stuff. Now, Malva, because of Clair's passive, you're not going to be taking boosted damage from an overheat that is boosted by sun. You are simply going to be taking the damage of a regular overheat, which is a lot by itself, but I digress. But that does not mean she's mitigating the power of charging Sun 5. So let's say you have your 100% raw power of overheat, you have 50% power of sun, and 50% power of charging Sun 5. All Clair does is mitigate 50% of that 200, we'll say 200%, meaning Clair is taking 150% damage instead of 200%, which is better, but obviously if the enemy has a multiplier activated, then they're still getting powered up by it. It's essentially like if she was to have, like, I don't know, Rising Tide or something, and she were to have, like, a few stat buffs. It would be the same type of situation. Not Rising Tide, good form, but whatever, you get what I'm saying. So, Clair is able to mitigate the direct power-up of enemy moves from Dragon Zone, Electric Terrain, all that stuff, but she's not able to mitigate the passives that are powering up those characters. So, you are dealing with that in that aspect, and if I'm wrong in this, which I don't think I am, I'll update it in the description, so of course, look for that. But if there's nothing in there, then of course this means I'm correct. Clair is not able to mitigate the power up from stuff like Charging Sun or, you know, Draconic Power, that type of stuff. So do keep that in mind. But this is still definitely a solid ability for if you are in a high score event, especially Dragon, because we have not had it yet. Clair being able to allow allies to set Dragon Zone and do a lot of damage from themselves, but also be able to mitigate enemy damage from Dragon Zone boosted Dragon attacks is going to be good. Because she's not weak to Dragon, which in its own right is really good, of course. But obviously, I can't fucking speak. Also, obviously means that your allies are going to be able to make full abuse of Dragon Zone without having to worry about the enemies getting that same 50% power buff, because Clair is obviously able to mitigate it, which is definitely good in its own right. And this is good for universally any high score event, because, like, imagine we get, you know, the Psychic high score event. I don't think we've had that yet. The Psychic high score event where we can use Psychic Terrain, but we don't want to buff the enemy. So there's an issue with that there, but now you're not worrying about it because Clair is able to mitigate the Psychic Terrain buff of enemies, which is good. So you can make full abuse of that. If your goal is to, like, get 180,000 points, Clair can probably be used off, you know, the off type. So you're not getting your maximum points, but Clair can be able to be there to activate even more points than you would be able to otherwise, because she's able to allow allies to buff Psychic Terrain or abuse Psychic Terrain without having to worry about buffing enemies, which is good. But I'd say that's her biggest niche, is being used in that type of situation, because most stadium battles, realistically speaking, do not use Weather Terrain Zone, all that stuff, and are unable to be buffed in some way by it. Because again, Malva, as your example, she's getting buffed by Charging Sun 5, whether Sun is up. You know, because Sun is up. She may be getting that 50% less power buff, but she still has Sun up, which is not exactly great, right? I can't think of any other characters that make abuse of terrain. I think Drasna makes abuse of Dragon Zone, which is obviously optimal, right? I think it's probably Fair Week Drasna, right? If we go to Fair Week Drasna, yeah, she's got Draconic Sync and Draconic Power, so this would require you facing Drasna and allowing her to use her Sync move, which is not the worst option in the world, not the worst option ever, but obviously these are high-powered stages, so being able to survive Sync moves is a little bit more difficult than the lower-tier stadiums, so you got to keep that in mind. But again, this is mostly useful ability in terms of the high-score event for the most part. Anyway, looking at her grid, at 1 out of 5, Clair has Unbending, and that's literally it. 2 out of 5, she gets Panic Button, Grass Guard. I forget what the cultural significance is behind this, but there's a reason she has Grass Guard specifically. I forget exactly what it is. I think it's something to do with the Chinese New Year and Year of the Dragon, so that's interesting, but in-game mechanics, it's not really all that crazy. Quick Cure. Also, we do have the Grass High Score event as well, so I mean, you can make abuse of that. Anyway, Quick Cure, Team Trainer Move, Team Hit and Heal, applying gradual healing to all allies when the move is successful. Revenge Boost 4, Dragon Breath, Hostile Environment. Pretty much it. Panic Button is definitely good for applying Gauge Acceleration if you do need it or desperately need Engage, because obviously Team Free Moves Next is going to run out eventually off the trainer moves. So being able to actually apply Gauge Acceleration and allow allies to consistently get their moves in is good, especially because Clair is a 2 gauge move user, so gotta keep that in mind. She's got Revenge Boost 4 for pretty much the same reason, being able to apply gauge support because, again, she's a little bit slow, so, and she can't buff speed and whatnot, so being able to do that in any method is still good. Hostile Environment on Dragon Breath for a 60% paralysis chance. Not bad if you're going to run her with a character like Sigma Suit Cynthia who needs paralysis, but of course, how many times are you going to be doing that? I think most of the time you're going to want to go for Twister for the flinch chance. And then Team Hit and Heal for gradual healing on allies. I mean, again, more niche stuff, but it's something, right? It's just gradual healing, especially combined with her initial synchro healing too, can give you some decent bulk, I guess. And then at 3 out of 5, she gets First Aid 4, Berserk Bunch 1, Team Fist Bump 3, Aggravation on Twister, half HP Restore MP, hit Paralyze the Opponent, Restore HP, Weather Terrain Zone Change, Team Move Up 2, and then all ramped up 1. So Berserk Bunch and all ramped up 1, raising allies attack and special attack when the move is successful. This is literally just any move she uses. It'll be buffing ally stats, meaning she is now actually capable of being a really consistent buffer of obviously crit and then attack or special attack or both if you opt to do so. So this is definitely a good ability for her to have if you need her for that offensive support capability. Go for it. First Aid 4 for some good healing. Obviously, combined with her initial synchro healing and whatnot, you could definitely get a lot of good healing on Clair specifically, especially if you do need her to be really bulky. You can work with that. Aggravation 1 on Twister does not really need too much explanation. 40% chance to flinch is pretty solid, but it is, do consider it is going to be split damage if you are facing multiple opponents, or split chance rather. So you could get lucky, you could not get lucky. It's just roll of the dice there for the most part, but still not bad. Stray flinches here and there can save a run. Team Fist Bump 3, 40% chance to restore ally HP when the attack move of the user is successful. Again, spamming Twister, assuming you have already used all your trainer moves. You can use Twister here for flinches, and then of course get some gradual healing in there. Hit paralyzed opponent, HP recovery 9. Again, she's just got so many healing methods for herself and allies. Initial synchro healing here, First Aid 4 here, Team Fist Bump, trainer move gradual healing, this ability. Claire's got so many different healing abilities that this is going to be a good, pretty solid character for like a legendary gauntlet. She's got defensive bulk, she's got defensive healing, she's got pretty consistent abilities to keep gauge up with panic button as well as revenge boost. So you've got some pretty solid methods here of using Clair as a gauntlet type of support if you are that type of person to want to do it. And of course she has her utility with paralysis for someone like Yuxi and Tornadus, and then flinching of course for the same. Flinching for pretty much every legendary arena is good, especially because most of them are single target, meaning you don't have to worry about that split chance, which is definitely good. And then half HP, restore MP once 9, 100% chance to restore MP for the user's move when it drops to half HP or below. This is good, of course, because this means you can now buff your special attack and attack to +4 if you don't want to pick up Berserk Bunch or all ramped up. And obviously it gives you extra X defense salts to max your defensive buffs, and obviously more free moves next for your team. So this is not a bad ability if you do need that gauge efficiency, top off defenses and attack and special attack, however you want to do it. And then Weather Terrain Zone Change Team moves up 2, powers up the moves of all allies, sync pairs when Weather Terrain or Zone is in play. Not bad either, obviously. So this is a direct supporting capability to her allies. We're getting a lot of these more and more now, especially with like techs and fields and sprint characters, where they're getting like a 20% power buff to all allies when certain conditions are met. Like Irida, she's buffing all allies by 20% when in Hail, I think. Ice Zone or Hail, one of the two. Fall Rock Sands giving allies a 20% buff when attacking trapped opponents. Holiday Viola is giving a 20% buff to allies when attacking paralyzed opponents. And now Clair here is giving a 20% buff whenever any sort of weather terrain or zone is in play. So definitely very, very nice. When it comes to the grid, though, and what to pick up, it really just depends. If you are facing like a gauntlet or something and you need like a solo or at least a duo, a lot of her defensive utility plus like revenge boost is probably going to be a solid thing to pick up, like train of gradual healing, hit opponent paralyzed recovery. That's not bad. Team Fist Bump 3 is not a bad pick as well, combined with aggravation. I mean, you could probably get rid of this. Yeah, this is probably your best grid, realistically speaking. Obviously you could get rid of some of this stuff if you wanted to, but really, maybe if you wanted to use all ramped up 1 here, you could get rid of some stuff. Really, it's just up to you and how you want to do it, because Clair could probably do some solos. I'm not, like, immensely confident in her capability, but, like, I think she could do it. At least some duos, definitely. She's going to be a good character to help out for a duo in a gauntlet for sure. But at the very least, I think maybe we'll do some solos. I don't know. I don't know against two. Maybe Latios, you know, where everyone can solo. Even like Signasuit Elisa or fucking Glacia. Come on, yeah. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, she's definitely got some solid capabilities for different game modes, mostly Gauntlet and like the high score event. But of course, if you do want to use her for like Stadium, I would pick up the Weather Terrain Zone Change ability here because most of the time you're going to want to use this. You're probably not going to need the MP Restoration ability because she gives enough free moves next for pretty much the short battles of Stadium. And of course, you can pick up just All Ramped Up or Berserk Bunch if you do need some more attack buffs, depending on which one you need. Like if you need attack, go for Berserk Bunch. Special attack, go for All Ramped Up. First Aid 4 is not bad either, especially Panic Button 2 is pretty good for obviously gauge acceleration. Twister Aggravation could be solid, but of course that is a little bit more luck dependent. I would say just depending on what you're facing, going for stuff like this or just maybe this is probably your best bet. If you want to go for All Ramped Up though, you may be able to pick up the Twister Aggravation with pretty good consistency. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. It really just depends on what you're facing with Clair. She can face Gauntlets, she can face the high score event, she can face Stadium, all relatively well. I'm not going to say she's a meta-relevant support or anything. Definitely not up to the standards of Nia Champion Rosa, and not even up to the standards of, like, Penny or someone like that. But she's still a good support for sure. She can still be finding a lot of use, and if Clair is your favorite character or Drampa is your favorite Pokemon, all, like, two of those people, two people in the world with Drampa as their favorite Pokemon. I'm kidding. I like Drampa. It's funny. But yeah, like, definitely not a bad sync pair to pick up, of course. I would not recommend outright going for the sync pair, but if you do feel like she can help you with some certain things you're struggling with, such as, like, again, high score events where you really want to be able to use your different terrain zones and weathers, but you can't because you don't want to buff out enemies, rather, Clair can be a good mitigation to that type of issue. And, of course, again, Clair, Drampa, if you like them, go for them. Of course, she's not a bad character by any means, just definitely not super valuable compared to everything else, or both released last month and this month, and just in general. But yeah, I digress. I'll see you all later. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know if you're going to be going for New Year's Clair down in the comments below. Let me know if you like her or not. Let me know if you're going to go for Wallace or if you're going to save, go for Iono, Grusha, whatever it may be, and I'll see you all later.